Casting with Ceri Jones.
You can keep your fine dining. This beats any 5-star restaurant.
There's no question about that.
How's the steak?
Tremendous. Cooked to perfection. Did you
cooked
enjoy
it
yours?
yourself? Yeah.
Sure, you've hardly touched it.
I know, I haven't touched it. I bet you were up this morning, 5 o'clock, making this coleslaw, you?
I was, yeah. Well, it was actually about 6:15 because I had to go to 5:30 mass. I'm an altar boy as well, you see, so... It's best to let the steaks rest a good while as well. I'm sure they're going to stay warm in that sun anyway.
They say that, don't they?
Yeah.
Even once you cooked it, you leave it on the chopping board or something for a while. Looks like cannibals doing this now, mate. So you got no knife and fork. I can't remember the last time I had a T-bone.
Nor I.
And with the vintage red as well. Well, it was a different day today than it has been the last couple of days. The wind's dropped and lots more sun. We managed one fish this morning. I reckon if the cloud came, they'd come on, do you think?
There's no question about that, Ceri. There's no question about it. If you just got an hour of cloud, like we're on the dries, wind is insignificant to us now, to be honest with you, but all we need is a little ripple. But you need cloud.
Like today, it's just pleasure fishing today.
It is, yeah.
But if you was fishing like a competition fishing, I don't know if you do competitions now, but what method would you use out there today?
I'd be using wets. I'd be pulling big wet mayflies. Because, like, if you look today, most of the gulls we're seeing are in the kind of darker water, in the deeper kind of water. So I'd be doing big, long drifts. I could even fish an intermediate line today. If I was competition fishing, I'd probably fish an intermediate tip.
Yeah.
8-pound line and three wet mayflies on. One of them would be green, one of them would be yellow, and then something else. You always have to kind of cover the two colours of green and yellow during the mayfly on the Corrib. Different now once you hit 4 o'clock, the greys and other stuff like that comes into it. But I'd be just doing big long drifts across open water. I try and stay in maybe, 10 to 20 foot of water on the outside of shallows and just blast them back. And then if you've seen the fish coming on, splashing like mad, switch to the floater and put on your dries then.
Yeah.
Your wolves or any of these CDC lads. Like, you have a better chance to get them when they're going mad. But you might only see them going mad for 45 minutes, you have to... It'd be good to have two rods set up if you could in that situation.
These fish are so fine-tuned, aren't they? The change of conditions is so delicate, and just knock them off or knock them on at any point. Like.
Yeah.
Like, to be fair, the last 2 days when I was out there, it was overcast, and it was a little bit stiff, the wind, but I don't mind that. But it was overcast, and it was nice, those dark days, which is ideal you want. And then on the day before yesterday, it was unreal. It was like a David Attenborough film. It was these gulls coming down, and it was like, who was going to get to the fly first? The trout or the gulls? Doesn't happen very often.
No.
And I was grabbing my camera every so often, because you could just see them just diving down and just picking them up so delicate, like off the surface.
Yeah, well, there hasn't been the big hatches like, there used to be. I don't know, is it got to do with water clarity or whatever, but... No, I haven't been on the lake for about a week or so, but I haven't seen any massive hatches of mayfly where they're absolutely everywhere and dancing above the trees, after lunch and stuff like that. And I'm seeing people walking the shore a lot longer trying to pick up mayflies than they used to be. I actually noticed one there now. He was down there and I don't know, he must have been 20 minutes walking the shore up there trying to get a few fly for dapping. But you think...
Would you dap now? Do you dap these days?
I wouldn't really. Maybe once during the mayfly season. I would definitely dap maybe once. I have a fishing partner who daps, and he's very, very good at it. And he has all the light match rods and stuff like that. And it's great just to sit in the boat with them, and you have this centre pin reel and.
Can you
fine.
get like high-end dapping rods then? Because I always thought dapping rods were like the Woolworths cheerful. Or there are ones you can have, yeah?
Well, everybody uses, there's very good coarse fishing rod, match rods, 13 foot, really light, and
Oh, right.
they're the top rods for dapping nowadays.
And would you use floss? A lot of people I speak to, they don't.
I would try not to, if I could get away with it. I wouldn't, no. It's delicate, but do you know something? I used to have customers from Scotland, and they used to come over, fish the Corrib with myself and my father. They'd fish for about 5 days, and they'd bring over the big dapping flies, like these big kind of Lough Corrib dapping flies. And
Yeah.
I'd be saying to them, no, you can't be using them now, you have to use the natural mayfly. And they'd grease them up, and they'd pull them kind of sidewards through the waves. They'd put
Skates in them, like.
movement into them. And they'd be averaging, I don't know, 15 trout a day, per boat. And then some days they got over 20. And it just goes to show, you think you know a bit about the Corrib, but it takes someone from Scotland to come over with a new technique, and lo and behold, we actually, they were killing too much trout, to be honest with you. And myself and my father says, we need to take them out into 100 foot of water, because they were just, like the first day, they I'm not joking, 2 boats they killed, and we had no say in the matter. They just kept killing them. They killed 21 trout. So the second day, I think they killed 15.
Isn't there a limit?
There wasn't then. The limit was brought in. It's three per angler per day now. And it was a 12-inch limit back then. It's a 13-inch limit now. And the third day they got, I think, 7 trout. And the fourth day they got 2 trout, because we kept bringing them deeper and deeper and deeper to stop them killing these fish. It was ridiculous to see now, because we put all our fish back. We might keep one.
So they were fishing the artificial?
They were fishing the artificial, yeah. And it was kind of our home water where they were taking the fish out of down at Birchall. And, we had competitions coming up. We didn't want them taking all the easy fish out of it, so we moved up the lake.
I done it years ago. And the thing is, I've spoken to a few people this week actually regarding dapping. And they've all said, every one of them, they don't use floss. But the thing is, the concentration is intense then. Because it's like you're like watching your dry fly even, If you're watching your dapping fly, and then something catches your eye, you look away, it's hard then to get focused back where your fly is. At least with the floss, it can direct you, can't it?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you now, you see, you said to me this morning there on the lake that you don't like to leave the dries too long on the water. Look at the seagull coming down now to take the bit of fat off the steak I threw out. Look at him there. Isn't he as brazen? But anyway, I was fishing one day.
He's still around. He's waiting for mine now.
Yeah, no, he can smell. He can smell the fat of the steak there in the hedges. Go on, we won't shoot you. But I remember fishing down at Rabbit Island one day, and I'd finished gillying for the day. My people went in at lunchtime, and I had the rod set up on my boat with 3 dry flies on it, and I had a dapping rod in the boat as well. And I said, just for pig iron, I said I'd do a drift to fish the 2 rods at the same time, you see. So in the left hand, I put the live mayflies on the dap out in front of me, maybe 15 yards, just nice and comfortable. And then I set up my dry fly rod with 3 wolves on it, and maybe casting 10 yards of line and just thrown out in front of me. So I'm fishing 2 rods at the same time, artificials and natural mayflies. And all you had to do was just literally roll cast the wolves out every time. And the strangest thing happened to me. And I still can't believe what happened to this day, and I still try and work it out. But the 3 wolves went down at the same time, and there were 3 kind of 12, 13-inch fish. And I landed the 3 of them.
Really?
I put the 3 of them into the net, would you believe? And I realised then, Oak Gerard have a hatchery for trout for the lake, and the shallows at the back of Rabbit Island is one of the places that they dump all the fry. So, and they tend to stay in the same area, and they tend to shoal. So that's exactly what happened then. But it was quite amazing because there's a lad on the Corrib, and I actually seen him fishing the two rods, fishing the dries on one rod and the dap on the other, and he's a good angler. And I says, I'd love to try that someday, just to see could I do it. And that was fun. So dapping is not boring when you're fly casting as well at the same time in your other hand.
Ambidextrous. At the same time.
At the same time.
I think the dap will take more fish than they on the day.
You'll get way bigger fish dapping.
And you do get the odd salmon, don't you? On a dap.
Yeah, I never got one on a dap now, but they do, yeah.
The steak is nice, isn't it?
Oh my God, it's
They just pull apart, like.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And you need to let it rest, for that length of time, to be honest with you.
I think they look so good straight out the pan, you almost set it straight away. But we had to take some pictures first, that's the reason.
Yeah, that's why I had a starter.
So you don't do any guiding at all now?
No.
This is the first season you've had in 25 years, is it? Not guiding on either?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't there last year, but I did a lot of guiding up in other places. I've done a few days this year. I'm trying to limit it to, friends and people I'm going to have a good day with. I just needed a break from it. I needed a year to fish. And I'm enjoying it. I'm very relaxed at the minute. As you can see, I'm sitting down on a rock here having a T-bone steak and a glass of wine with no hurry to get back out onto the lake because it's so sunny. But it's nice to just take a break. What kind of gets to you when you're guiding, every day is... And it was different for me because I was organising a few different boats and a few different gillies. There's tremendous pressure on you in the morning because everybody's kind of coming at the same time. And when you're guiding yourself, you still have to kind of set up everybody else. There's always going to be little things that go wrong in the morning. People, engines won't start. People forgot their rods. They don't have the right fly line. They mightn't have the right flies. They've no life jacket. They've no landing net. They've no cushion. This, that and the other. So you have to sort all them things out, and there's tremendous stress and pressure on you to get everything done as fast as possible in the morning.
Do you know what I find about this place though? Everything, the time goes so fast.
Unbelievable.
You wake up, say 8 o'clock, maybe you think, right, you'll be out now in an hour.
No.
You never get out till about 11:30.
Yeah.
And it's not as if you're taking your time. You're doing so many different things.
But sure, it takes you, no matter who you are, it takes you 45 minutes to do up the boat in the morning, no matter who you are. And it takes you 5 minutes to tackle down. So it's nice to just be able to, just relax and enjoy your fishing. And
You meet some people though guiding, don't you? I remember on the other podcast you said, some funny stories of people who guide. What was the story you were telling me out there now with the guy with the helicopter?
Oh yeah. So he'd hire me for 2 weeks in May during the Mayfly. He'd stay in a house on the shore in Lough Corrib there with his family and some of his business partners. They'd take over the whole house. I gillied him one day. They'd never really caught any fish dapping on the lake, and it was very, very windy. And he said to me, so you're my new gilly. He says, we've been coming here now for 3 or 4 years, and I think we've only caught about 3 or 4 trout, and we come for a couple of weeks at a time. It was a big enough old wave now. I said to him, I says, do you know, if you want fish today now, I says, we'll troll flies for a few hours. And he says, geez, that'd be brilliant. So they got 3, 4, 5 trout, I can't remember what it was, and it was their best day ever, and they came in, and then he said to me, right, he says, you're hired. He says, what's your rate? And I told him my rate. And he says, right, I'll give you such and such, which was over my rate. And he says, you just arrive here on the shore at the guest house in your boat every morning at 10 o'clock. And if my son wants to go fishing, this fella had plenty of money now. He says, if my son wants to go fishing, we'll go fishing. And if he doesn't, you go fishing by yourself or you go home. You'll still get your daily rate. And I went, gee, that's lovely. So about 4 or 5 days into this fishing trip of his, it was the semi-final of the Champions League. Chelsea were playing Barcelona. And I like the soccer. I wouldn't be a Chelsea fan now. I'd be a Norwich fan, sadly. But
Norwich, they've gone down this year, haven't they? Again.
Thank you. Yeah, they're up and down like a horse.
Yo-yo.
So anyway, he says to me, "Do you want to go and watch the match this evening?" He says, "We're Chelsea fans," and I says, "Geez, I'd love that." I says, and I thought he was talking about going into a pub in Lough Corrib to watch it. So I had resigned myself to booking a B&B or a hotel in Lough Corrib for the night. And then he gets out the phone and he rings his pilot, Andrew, and he says, "Andrew, where's the big bird?" And Andrew replies, "It's in Athlone."
So you were thinking about his wife then, were you?
I hadn't a clue what he was on about. Like, I'm there standing in Wellingtons. Do you know what I mean? And he says, I can hear Andrew saying, "Grand," and then Patrick says to him, "Myself and Mr. Folan are going to Stamford Bridge. Fuel it up and make sure there's plenty of drink on board." And then Andrew says, tell Colin tell Mr. Folan there's champagne and there's gin and tonics on board, and if he'd like anything else, I can run down to the supermarket or whatever." And I says, "No," I says, we'll have the champagne going over, and we'll have the gin and tonics on the way back," I says. So it was absolutely remarkable. Like, we landed in the helipad in Stamford Bridge, and Roman Abramovich was there at a kiosk, and Patrick's helicopter is a real high-end Sikorsky, an 8-seater, and he landed it right beside Roman Abramovich's Sikorsky. And then he looked at me and he smirked and he says he's very jealous of me because I have the newer model. He said, so that was funny. The game was boring. It was 0-0, but geez, it was quite amazing. And
Especially when you expected it to be in the boat at the end.
Yeah, and then about 2 days later, we came in off the lake and the small helicopter was on the shore outside the guest house. You couldn't land the big one there, you see. It's not feasible. The small helicopter was there, and he says, "Colin," he says, "we're not going fishing today, but you're the only person never to ask me for a spin in the helicopter. Everyone else asked me." So he says, "Andrew will bring you wherever you want to go today, but you've only about an hour and a half flying max, because we won't have enough juice to get back." And I says, "Fine." He says, "Where would you like to go?" And I says, "I'd love to see Lough Corrib from the air, and maybe Loch Mask, if that's okay. But I'd love to see the shallows and the islands of the Corrib." And I remember it was an awful windy and rainy day. Absolutely terrible, during the mayfly. And so we're flying around the lake, and like, I didn't realise when you take off in them small helicopters, the tail comes up first, you see. So you're kind of facing down on the ground, and you're going up into orbit, but you're looking down, you see. And as well as that, there's no wipers on it. Do you know what I mean? So when the rain is coming in on the windscreen, you know, I was kind of looking around I was going to say, "Will you turn on the feckin' wipers there, for God's sake?" You know, you can hardly see out, like, you know. But to make a long story short, anyway, amazing to see the rocks, and they look like grains of sand from the air, to be honest with you, over the Corrib. And I wanted to see Ashford Castle, the estate, because there's so many kind of private little, you know, just little houses and estates within an estate. And I wanted to see that. And I said to Andrew, I says, "Just fly around Ashford Castle there and the estates and the grounds. I want to see it from the air." So basically what had happened then was 4 or 5 of the staff had came out to the helipad, you know, dressed up in their suits, like, you know, waiting to take your baggage. They thought we were guests coming in to stay in Ashford Castle, like, you know, the most expensive hotel in Ireland. And I'm there in my Wellingtons, and I says to Andrew, "Do you know what you do now for the hell of it? Land on the helipad." And he goes, "What?" I says, "Land on the helipad there. The staff will come over. I'll take a look around, turn my nose up at it in my Wellingtons, get back into the helicopter and instruct you to take off again." And he did. So that was fun. But it's amazing coming back over across the lake. Like, Ashford is over there as I point. And coming back over there, the wind came something ferocious. Oh, Jesus Christ. It was. So now he's flying under the wind. I'm not joking you. There's a boat dapping with like 15 foot or 16 foot or 17 foot.
You touched the tip.
Dapping. We didn't touch the tip, but I thought we were going to, you know, like he had to fly that low.
Yeah.
You literally can see the top eye of the rod.
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
It was not a bother to him, but you know, for a man that hadn't been in a helicopter too many times, it was a bit
He
unnerving.
was saying about coming into Ashford Castle and the staff thinking he was somebody. I had an incident yesterday. I was in Galway the night before, and I called into the G Hotel just randomly. I thought I could do with a coffee now, which, as you know, was like quite an expensive hotel in Galway.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I went in, they were treating you a little bit over the top, you know, as if they were thought there was somebody. I really thought that, and I thought I could take it, you know, no problem. He says, "Oh, sit down." The boss, the manager, he goes, "What would you like to drink?" So I said, "Oh, I'll have a cappuccino." And he calls in to this Polish girl as was, "Could you get this gentleman a coffee?" So I sat down nice. I thought perhaps everyone gets his treatment. So I sat down, had this coffee, and when I finished then I got up and I walked towards this payment reception area. I said, "I want to settle up." And they said, and this woman there, she's the manager by the looks of it, she said, "No, it's okay, it's on us." I said, "Really?" And she says, "Yeah, mate, counted your lucky day," she said.
That
So
was
is-
nice. It's
so
the
I
little
think
things.
It must have been a case of mistaken identity. They must have thought it was somebody else.
Not at all. I'd say they listen to the podcast.
Quite probably, yeah. You never know.
You never know. Do you want another mouthful of wine, Ceri?
Jesus.
There's only a small bit left.
You have it. You have it. Do you want those mushrooms?
No.
I'll make you a swap then. You have the wine, I have the mushrooms.
Oh, sure. Look, you have wine left. Go for it. Here. Isn't it great to be able to just sit down and nobody annoying you, and you've nothing to do, only wait for the sun to go in and the clouds to come out? Isn't it great?
Yeah. And the girls to come down then.
What?
And the girls, not the girls. The girls to come down.
Well, we'll have to get 2 more glasses then.
No, and to think this is like 2 years ago, this was a dream.
This was taken away from us.
Yeah.
This was taken away from us. And
Yeah.
what harm were you doing? Do you know what I mean? Just because...
No, that's right. The simple things. And do you know what? Funny enough, I don't know if this is the case actually, whether or not I am fishing a different area at the moment, which I haven't fished before, down by Basil Shields' place. And the fish I'm having on the fly are great fish, like 2.5, biggest one 5.5. They're all lumps. And I'm thinking to myself, is it maybe fish in this area, this part of the lake, always holds good fish? Or maybe that 1.5, 2 years of
Yeah.
no fishing in the lake makes a difference.
There's no question about that. Like, you have to realise, I think the last count of boats on the lake, oh Jesus, this must be about 8 years ago. I think there was 2,000 boats on the lake. And of them 2,000 boats, fishing boats, angling boats, there'd probably be half them that would only fish during the mayfly, you know, dapping and stuff like that. So,
Yeah,
and it's a high volume of fish. Like, we fish the buzzers and we fish the dries and we fish the olives, but we don't kill our fish, we put them back, and if anything, we're educating them. But like in the dap, you know, it's, you know, there can be 4 people in a boat, so that's a bag limit of 3 each, so that's 12 trout per day. And dappers are not really...
and a lot of them are day outers, aren't they?
They're just
When
day
they're on the
outers. They're bringing out kids and stuff, you know. And
So they kill the fish without really...
they kill them, yeah. But so that's a lot of fish gone out of the lake. I wouldn't say there's 2,000 boats on the lake now.
Mind you, jungle drums do go around quite quick, doesn't it? Because 3-4 days ago, when I told Basil I had 6 nice fish in that bay, the following day there was
yeah.
7 or 8 boats in there.
Absolutely, yeah. You say nothing. You give them... Like, myself and my father used to be called liars every time we'd come in from fishing, and we'd go to Canavy's, the pub, on the way home for a quick pint. And, you know, we were called liars. You know, fishermen are liars. They lie about what they caught. And we'd go in there every evening and they'd say, "What you get?" And we'd say, "Blank, nothing." and we could have got 12 or 15, you know.
Yeah.
And then they'd say, look, Mert and Colin aren't catching any fish, so I feel better now I didn't catch any fish. But
Is this that Canadian in Roscackle?
it is, yeah.
I've never been in it.
Oh, gee. There's...
Looks lovely outside.
It does, yeah. There's 2 doors into it, and the door on the left-hand side, there's a spectacular 3 furrock stuffed, got in the same day. I think it's Barrett that got them. You know him, don't you? Barrett from down my Cullen side. I think it's Barrett that got him. 3 big lads in the one day. John Thomas, the taxidermist.
He does everything around here, doesn't he?
Yeah. But he did a great job at these 3 fish, and they're in the one case. It's spectacular now, and that's where all the fishermen go after their after their day.
I'll have to go there.
Yeah, and not only that, the piss pot is in there, which is an enamel potty from the mental hospital down in Ballinasloe, and we acquired it through.
What do you mean? Is it a piss pot?
It's a trophy we fish for.
Oh,
the
right,
piss
they
pot.
call it the piss pot.
We call it the piss pot. It's mounted on a wooden base, brass plaques on it and the whole lot, but it's actually from the nut house.
It's an actual piss pot?
It's an actual potty, an enamel potty, yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
So we call it the piss pot cup. And all the people that, you know, would have a pint in Canavies or fish out of Birchall, they'd fish for the piss pot every year. It's a kind of anti-competition, if you understand me. There's no prizes in it. There's no entry fee in it.
Is it for the biggest brown?
Jesus Christ, Kerry.
I got to leave that one in.
Oh my God. Do you know, one time, this is terrible. One time...
This is going to be quite a record in the more drink we're going to be drinking. Yeah.
I'll tell you an awful one. Once you win the piss pot, you can't win it for another 5 years, you see. So anyway...
You don't want diarrhoea then, do you?
So wait when you hear this. I won it one year, I think it was 98, 99, something like that. And you obviously go back the following year to defend, but if you can't win it again, so somebody else's name goes on the piss pot. And it's in a glass case and everything. This thing is pride and joy. It's like to win the piss pot. Like Trout and Salmon did an article about the piss pot. Do you know what I mean?
Did they?
Yeah. The
Taking
piss
the
pot.
Piss.
John Wilshaw and Peter Gathercole, they did an article about it. So anyway, I never forget it. The following year, this man won it, and I didn't particularly like this man.
Yeah.
We had some fallings out in the past. He's dead now, thank God. But anyway, his wife was going around with the piss pot, and you know you'd fill a cup like with champagne, and the piss pot is always filled with cider because it looks like piss. You see, you know.
Well, at least this cider.
And she handed me the piss pot to take a drink out of it. Now, you have to realise that I've had the piss pot for the last year, you see, the trophy. And she handed it to me and she goes, take a drink out of that there, Colin. And I says, I won't. I've been pissing in it for the last year, I says to her. And she nearly dropped it. Oh, stop. And also in Canavies there's a map of the Corrib in it. Like a hand-drawn map of the Corrib, coloured in, absolutely perfect. But maybe about 25 of us tied a fly for the frame that would be, you know, special to you or special to me or special to my father or special to Cyril or Toby or whoever. And you can still see that in there. And we all tied them on size 8 hooks, and they're mounted lovely in it. And my fly was a Connemara black, obviously, because Connemara is very special to me and precious to me. So that's another interesting thing to see. Right. And the bar is tiny, like it's only from here to the tree over there.
I passed it every day this week. And from the outside, it's got this very modern blinds, and it looks like inviting inside, you know. Yeah. I'll have to call in it. You were saying about the 3 fish, which John Thomas had done in a case. Yeah. The boat in Outarad, he's done one with 2 in. So there's 3 in one case there, is there? There's 3 in one there, yeah. I didn't see the 2 fish in the boat in. I was in there 10 days ago. Yeah, as you go in, there's literally straight in front of you by the bar on the right hand side. Two of them, one big one, one small. Well, I say small. There's one about 5, I think, one about 10, I think.
I'll have to have a look there this evening.
Yeah, you'll probably see 4 later.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done a couple of fish for me actually. John Thomas.
Did he do the big one?
He did, yeah. He wanted to do the big one.
Yeah.
He did one 18 months. He did one.
But he's the best around, Kerry.
Yeah.
There's no one to compare with
He
him.
does a great shape, good form. He really knows his stuff. And he's the only one, he was telling me, there's a certain technique he got where the head is the actual head. Well, a lot of them, they just stick in, just the head you see in a case fish isn't the same
Yeah.
because they shrink, don't they? But he's got this technique, which he does, and it is. Have you been to his workshop?
No.
Great place. Like.
No. And I've used him a lot in the past, and, you know, whenever somebody got a big trout or big salmon or something and they wanted to keep it as a trophy or whatever, you know, I'd call him up and, you know, he'd tell you exactly what to do. You know, he'd say, now wet a towel, wrap the fish gently in the towel and freeze him, and I'll come and collect him. You know, and like he'd be travelling, he's out the far side of Galway, and sure I was out in Connemara, so he'd be travelling, you know, 55, 58 miles to come out and collect it and stuff, you know. And
yeah,
to
I
sit
think
down
he enjoys it as well.
There's no question about that, because you wouldn't travel to pick up a fish to go stuffing it if you didn't enjoy it.
When I had a 19.5, the first one I had from him, he actually said, I want to know what's the best thing to do with it. He said, don't put it in a bin liner. Most people put in a bin liner, you know, a big bag.
Yeah.
No, he said, because when that defrosts, it takes the scales off.
Yeah, okay.
Best thing you can do is newspaper. Wrap it in newspaper, because when you defrost it then, or whatever the next stage is, you soak the fish, soak the paper, and the paper just comes off. Whereas bags will rip the scales off. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Some of the guys coming in for lunch now.
They are. Them two lads were dapping there. Now, it'd be interesting to see, did they move any fish in the sun?
Yeah.
If they didn't, I'm going to put on the wet flies, because I'd like to get a couple of fish. I know you'll get them on the dries, but there's very little cloud curry and the sun has burned it off.
I think we picked the right time to come in and have lunch, an early lunch.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Well, the man on the left is from Galway anyway, because he's wearing a Galway GAA hat, so I'll probably know him.
Do you know what I'd like as well? Yesterday I had trouble with my engine, and I motored into Inishambo, and it was a boat. They were looking for a place to have food, and they seen me. I think they were going to go elsewhere, but fair play to them. You can see I was pulling the pole card, and they came in. And
Ah,
they
that's
asked,
lovely. That's, yeah.
do you want help? They said, you
Yeah.
know, and I said, no, I'm okay, and I was working my way through it. And they came and had lunch sitting next to me, and then before they left, they said, this is our number. And they actually give the number, just in case.
No,
you
isn't
know?
that fantastic?
Two Clare boys. Really
Isn't that
good.
fantastic? No.
Yeah, because it is a dangerous place, isn't it? Things can happen up
Well,
there.
yeah, it's so big. Like, I remember I got stranded on this island. Hello, lads. How are you getting on?
10 lovely big trucks.
Oh yeah, yeah. He got a box of mackerel.
Huh?
He got a box of mackerel.
Here's the table.
'Tis tough going out there, isn't it?
Oh, fuck's sake. No rise, fish rise, and no rise, wind.
No going out there.
No,
Huh?
no.
That is true.
No,
You can't
no,
eat the rice and stuff, Harry.
I hope you're vegetarian, lads.
We're vegetarian, yeah.
In this island, vegetarian island.
Is this vegetarian? I love your Galway cap.
Yeah, the old one.
Oh, I spotted that in the boat. I said to Ceri there, I said, there's a Galway fella anyway. I says,
It's a lot, very old, I think.
did you rise anything?
Not a thing.
No, it's too bright.
They're too bright and not enough wind. And
Did you-
everything's wrong.
Did you try the wet flies at all?
I have an artificial mayfly on,
Okay.
japping them. I
Yeah.
got a great trout last week or something.
Did you?
There was a great wind.
Where'd you get
Yeah.
them?
I got him, where were we talking? Oh, in Portcallan Bay. Portcallan.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, just by chance, I got him right for 2 3/4 pound.
Lovely.
Right.
Was he butter
I
coloured?
got 3 trout yet for the mayfly. The mayfly is over, I think.
Ah,
It's a big one, right?
but sure, this is what we're talking about here for the last 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's great to be alive when you think of what's going on around the world, and
So,
yeah,
it's great to come out here, freedom, and have your lunch. And
absolutely. And no one
Where you
bothering
from?
you.
Where you from?
I'm from Galway City.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
He's from Galway. My brother there. He's in Ballybally.
All right. What's your surname?
It's Stuart.
Stuart.
Yeah.
I'm Folan from Woodkey. Folan from Woodkey.
Yeah. What are you?
Jones
Jones?
from Wales, just north of Cardiff.
Wales, is it? Oh, the man came over a long way to fish.
Yeah, it's
You
worth
could
it
be
though.
fishing now, accommodation, hire a car, and get one trout. And one place said, good job you didn't get two.
Yes, yes. Well. What's your first name?
Paul.
Paul. Well, this man he has it worked out to a T.
Has he?
He's coming here for so long. Yeah. You wouldn't get much money out of this fella now, to be honest with you.
We used to have a great people. I used to be years ago up there after that.
Did you?
Great people from Wales. And we little bricking with them and we go fishing in the lakes.
You gonna have some lunch now, or are you gonna collect flies?
If I get two more of my flies, I'll do it for the day.
Oh, don't say that now.
I
Come
used
on.
two already.
Be optimistic.
I do.
Come on, you need at least a dozen. Come on, for God's sake.
This is a great island for them, you know.
It is,
And
yeah.
I don't see them coming off the water.
No, there's very little now, very little.
But they're the big grub now. We're lucky.
Good luck
Well,
to you now. Bye.
When you get 10 trout here, you have to stop at that.
We'll have to stop so in about 45 minutes.
I've seen these guys now collecting mayfly. I remember one of the early years I came here, there was I noticed on a field, we were near the lake actually, in some park nearby, and there was a grandfather and his grandson walking this field, and I was watching them, and they were both walking and kicking the grass, and it was September time.
Oh,
And
for the daddy longlegs.
grasshoppers.
Oh, for grasshoppers.
Yeah, right. They were collecting and you could hear them. They're crickety sort of
Yeah.
noise, isn't it? And then the young boy had a jar, and this guy didn't have a jar, so he was collecting them and giving them to the boy. Then next thing, I was watching, like, and I went up to chat to him. I was walking with them as I was there, and he'd pick up one grasshopper, he'd put it in his mouth, and he'd go along, and
Oh, the other fella had the box, was it?
yeah, and he had about 6 in his mouth.
Jesus Christ almighty.
And right, and I thought to myself, don't they jump around? No, he said, you know, when they're in your mouth, they stay still. And all of a sudden, he just opened his mouth then, and just in his hand, he had 6 grasshoppers.
Like something out of a horror movie, isn't it?
I wouldn't put one in my mouth, let alone 6, like.
It's like the coarse fishermen during the winter when they're fishing with the maggots, and it's like ice cold. They put the maggots in under their tongue
Yeah.
to keep them warm so they won't freeze, you know, so they'll still wriggle.
So after today, now, when we finished out today, you're not going to head back home, you're going to head up to Connemara, do some fishing, are you?
Yeah, you know, the spring salmon come into Connemara this time of the year, to be honest with you, and we've had a lot of rain over the last week, as you've probably witnessed, and the rivers will be swollen. They'll be dropping nicely, but there'll be a few spots. I think there's rain coming in again on Monday, I think. So, yeah, I'd just go out there and try and, you know, I like a few fisheries out there. It's not just Ina.
On the lakes, no?
I'd stay on the river.
Oh, on the river.
Yeah. There's certain pools and certain rivers out there that will
Will you
hold
get the
fish.
nod? Do you get people up there like in Ina now? Obviously, you work the most part of
Yeah.
your life. Do you have a nod and they say, right, there's
You have
salmon
to-
come up?
You have to get that. You have to get that. But you see, there's not many people fishing out there at the minute. There's no angling pressure on most of the rivers out there. So you don't know exactly what's happening. You can't always rely on the fish counters that are coming into, you know, to count the number of salmon coming into these places. You know, quite often they go on the blink or they're not registering correctly. You see the floods come massively. I was out there 2 weeks ago. I fished Delphi, and where I parked my car in the morning, the fella that I was fishing with, he said the water was up where you parked your car yesterday, and I reckoned it had dropped maybe at least 4 to 5 foot.
Yeah.
And a few days before that, I was down in Cong. I did a bit of fishing at Ashford there, and I rang a buddy of mine in Connemara who runs a fishery out there, and I said, "What's the river like?" Because the rain was just torrential, and he said, "No, it's a small spate river," but he said it's unfishable for at least 36, if not 48 hours. He said the river has come up 7 foot today, and that was the river in Kylemore.
Is it?
So,
Didn't realise I chatted with your mate Keith.
oh yeah,
Keith
yeah.
McDonald, yeah. I want to try and get in touch with him actually to fish.
Yeah.
Kyle Moore with
He
him.
sent me a nice box of flies.
He did, me too.
Did he?
Yeah.
They're tasty, aren't they?
Big
Yeah, big
articulated ones.
yolks.
Yeah.
Sex Dungeons.
Huh?
Sex Dungeon is one of them. It's a big green one. That's what it's called. It's my favourite.
Sex dungeon.
Kelly galloptised them in the States, yeah. And I think it's one of Keith's favourite. That's what started Keith on these articulated flies, the Sex Dungeon.
I know your favourite spot is in Aina, down by the Butts.
The Butts is my favourite, yeah.
Yeah, but do you know, I was thinking the boy's name, we were thinking earlier on, we were chatting about the time I guided for you.
Oh yeah, the young fella that, yeah.
Jack something his name was.
I think Jack is right.
It was, yeah.
Correct.
Just come to me now, Jack.
Jack
yeah.
is right.
Poor kid, he lost his dog in the morning, his
He
father
did,
then
yeah, a Labrador or a
wanted
Retriever or
to
something, yeah.
move his mind.
Yeah.
And he never caught a salmon and got him to catch a salmon. I was so chuffed. And sometimes when you guide in like that, it's like you get such a buzz when whoever you're with is catching. Because
Oh,
you're
absolutely.
fulfilled, haven't you?
There's no question about that. There is no question about that.
Jack,
If
yeah.
the person is a nice person, you'll do anything and you'll pray. You'll just pray and pray. And you'll be very respectful and very genteel in your speech towards them. You know, you won't be shouting and roaring at them. Like I've an awful habit of shouting and roaring at people, you know.
Like an Albert.
Yeah, well, Albert was grand for a few days, but when he didn't do what I said, then I started shouting and roaring at them, you know.
Yeah.
I remember...
Or I suppose you've got to be nice to them, because if they've given you tips, especially when you got Tato to think of as well.
Poor old Tato. But you see, the thing is as well, Ceri, like, they'd obviously been with other gillies and guides before in the past, you see, and like I've been with loads of gillies and guides in the past, and they're very placid, and they don't really say too much to you. They'll tell you, you know, the norm, what they say to everybody else. So you need to be kind of forthright, and I suppose a lot of my customers like they like the abuse. Because that means then, you know, they know that I care, you know what I mean? Like, I'll tell you a funny one. I had...
it shows your passion then, doesn't it?
It shows your passion, and it shows you're willing to, you know,
You want
do
them
the
to
right
catch.
thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And you see, now, there's days when you know nobody's going to catch a fish. Do you know what I mean? The conditions are wrong.
Yeah,
And then you can relax and be nice and give them a nice day and help them with their casting and rearrange their fly box for them and this, that and the other, and give them advice on whatever. But then when you know there's a really good chance of getting fish, these days don't come around too often when you're fishing for wild fish, especially migratory fish. So you have to make the most of it, and you know, it's all hands to the pump straight away, let's go. So anyway, a few years ago I had two lads with me, and we were fishing the river in Aina, and I really wanted the German to get the fish, because there was a great chance of a salmon now this day. Now the flood was in it and there was a great run of salmon. I'd spotted them on the counter for 2 or 3 days previous to that. There was a good run. This is about 4 years ago. So I said to the two boys, I says, we'll go to Curlew, which is about 600, 700 metres up from the Derryclare Butts. It's the outflow of Lough Ina, and it fishes extremely well in a massive flood. A lot of the fish from Lough Ina the salmon will back down into Curlew, because there's a great flow in there, and they can use their fins, you know, and this, that and the other. And all the fish that are coming up will be encouraged to sit beside them. So this is the place now you can get 5, 6, 7 salmon in a day. And there's not many places in Connemara that can get 5, 6, 7 salmon in a day. Maybe the Earth, if you're lucky. So anyway, I positioned the English fella halfway up. There's a stretch there we call the trout pool. And at the top of the trout pool, because of floods and stuff like that, there's spawning gravels there, and the gravels had shifted, and there's now like 2 pools there, and they fish well for salmon in high water. So I planked the English lad there. He's an old fella, well in his 70s, a surgeon. And I says, now you fish there and ring me if you hook one. because I only had the one landing net with me, and I wanted to bring it up for the journey up to Curlew. So I says to him, I says, fish there for no more than 30 minutes and then come up to me. So, Jesus Christ, it was nearly 2 hours and there was no sign of a man. So I said to the German, I says, right, 2 things has happened here now, I says. Either he's fallen in or he's hooked a salmon. So we better go down and investigate this straight away. We didn't catch any fish. So down we went, and there was your man playing a salmon. You see, now when I say playing it, the rod was hardly bent. There was maybe 2 inches in bent in the top of the rod, you see.
Yeah.
And he's using like an 11 weight or 11 foot 8 weight rod. And he goes, I have a big salmon. He says, I'm playing him now for an hour and a half. And sure, he wasn't putting any pressure on him at all, you see. And I says, for feck's sake, I says, you're not playing him. You're reviving him, I says. Will you reel up, and you're reviving him. And then got the net under him, and that was his first salmon. Good one now, he was about £7. But he loved that, you know. Like when we went back to the hotel, there was champagne and this, that and the other. And he says, I just realised, he says, the language out of you earlier on, you know, this is my first salmon. And you started saying to me that I was reviving the fish, not playing the fish. And I thought I was playing the fish. I've only just realised now what you meant, because within 2 minutes of you coming down, the rod was bent down to the cork, and then the fish was in the net. So thank you. And I says, you're welcome. But some people don't like being given out to when they're fishing. Nobody likes being given out to in any state of things.
Oh, I don't know about you, but this wine's gone to my head now. Just as well you only got the one wine, the one bottle.
Yeah, but it's a heavy wine. I'm looking at gulls over there, but they're not picking. They're just flying. They're just moving.
They are, aren't they? They're hovering above waiting. But like us, waiting. It goes to show that maybe that it's not so much the trouts don't come up in this weather. The flies are not hatching.
No, but
the gals will be taking them otherwise.
Yeah, but sure, but you're waiting 2 years to hatch. Are you going to hatch in bright sunshine and get? Now I know they don't have brains like the likes of us do, but
I don't know. Lucky for them.
I can feel my head burning.
So make us a brew.
You go ahead. I won't have one.
I think I'll have a coffee.
Oh,
actually.
do, please.
Oh, it's the sort of place, this island.
It is.
You just literally put your head down and just sleep for a couple of hours.
And the great thing about here is you've no sheep around here, so there's no ticks or anything like that. I got one with Stephen Barry way down the lake a few weeks ago.
Do you?
I did, about a month ago actually, yeah.
What do you mean, you carry them, do you?
He was in my lower back, just here.
How big are they then?
Huh?
How big are they?
Oh.
You couldn't see them. I thought ticks are like tiny, minute. Like.
No, well, there's a few different types of them, like. But this fella was, I suppose he'd be about a size 16. Size 16 tick.
Camasan.
There is a bit of kind of manure there of some sort, but it's not from sheep. And I presume, like that's so crusty there, it's probably got washed up from floods.
This is the tonto on you.
Yeah. No, I knew it's not from sheep because I just tasted it. I thought it was a bit of steak that fell off my plate. I want to take a look at their boat there and see is it a Mons or a Philbin. It looks like a Mons. The thing for sure is them 2 guys won't be lifting that engine on and off.
I can't see, there's a bush in the way from me. Or is it a big one there?
I'd say it's a 15 Yamaha or a Honda 4-stroke.
But you know what? The week, seeing these 2 guys now, both of them should to be in their 60s plus, right?
Oh, they're in their 70s, for God's sake.
Yeah, quite probably, right? And you know what? I've been here now, 10 days, something like that. And I don't think I've seen anyone under the age of 50. It's not looking good, is it?
No. Like, the thing about the mayfly on the Corrib that is, I can't believe that I haven't spotted today, is the big orange buoyancy aids on the kids.
Children.
Like, I haven't seen one orange buoyancy aid on a kid today. I haven't seen a kid on the lake today. Whereas before you'd see like 3 or 4 kids and they'd be cousins of each other going out with the uncle and stuff,
Yeah. This weekend you might, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's a nice weekend, even though it's not great for fishing forecast. It's the weekend which you're likely to see children out.
Yeah, but sure, you know as well as I do, it's just about the day out, like, and for...
Yeah. And do you know what, over the years, even since I was fishing, you go into different clubs and guilds and things, and they're always saying, the older fellas, oh, the young children aren't coming through, and you don't really take much notice of it. Until you start getting older yourself, you actually realise there ain't.
There ain't. You see, the world has changed as well, like, you know.
Yeah.
Like when I was growing up there, when I was in my 20s and 30s, you know, like I'd have no problem going to a friend's house to collect their young sons or daughters. I'd say, come on up the lake with me for today, I'll bring them up tomorrow. And, you know, they just say, Colin, come and collect them. Like, you can't do that now, you know, you can't. It's a different world. And to see the excitement on a young kid's face when they either rise a fish or hook a fish or play a fish, it's just magic. That's what it's all about, because I can remember these things when I was, you know, less than 10 years of age, and they stay with you for life, you know. And even though you've probably got one maybe 6 or 7 inches, you know, he's like fucking 3 or 4 pounds nowadays, you know. That's what he feels. I'm going to switch to wet flies now for the afternoon.
Well, I'm going to stick to the dries.
Good man. I'll bring them in. They'll follow me. I'm going to put on 2 big muddlers, a green one and a yellow one.
You bring them in and I'll cast them up and take them on dry.
That's the way to do it.
We'll have to have our own piss pot trophy.
The way we're going, it could happen fairly fucking soon.
We'll have to have a night in Galway as well.
Yeah.
I almost, last night, because I lose track of days now. I knew we were going to fish today, and I think it was the night before last I went down to Salt Hill.
Yeah.
I almost thought I'd let you know, but I knew that we'd probably end up having a food to drink, and I probably wouldn't be fishing the next day.
We'd probably end up off the coast of Venezuela on some kind of oil tanker with our underpants on our head.
Again. Well, I'm going to make a brew now.
You make a brew. I want to just check, do I have my box of muddlers with me? Because I think muddlers have worked today.
Nice one.
I think I do, but I just want to double check.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please consider becoming a Patreon, where you will get 2 extra podcasts each month. That's one every week, plus bonus content, photography and other exclusive content, plus access to over 60 plus episodes. You can join my Patreon channel by visiting patreon.com/Casting with Ceri Jones, or see the links on my website, castingwithcerijones.com, or see my posts on Facebook and Instagram. Well, that's all for now. Tight lines and don't strike too soon.